Good morning, morning, beautiful souls. Good morning, beautiful empaths, and welcome to my page. Welcome to the channel of freedom, the channel of breaking empaths free, and the channel of enlightenment. Now, this is Denzamos, and as always, the drill has always been the same. You can always like, share, and subscribe if you're new and the content resonates. And all the ones who have always been with me, I welcome you back to the page. And thank you for the support. Thank you for the love and support. I appreciate you all and I love you all. Now, recently, I had a little discussion with one of my clients. There's one of my clients, also my subscriber, based in Norway, and we talked a little bit about awakening because she was also awakened. She also got awakened after abuse. So what we were discussing a few issues about awakening, and she actually requested me, so shouts out to Millicent. She requested me that I should come out and give more clarity on this awakening thing, the awakening process, what it feels like. I'm talking about the awakening, the real awakening, whereby you have a person who has awakened and then after gotten enlightened. But at the same time, we have a person who is enlightened and then after they get awakened. So in either way, people are awakened to some degree, but the cases are different. So I'm going to talk about in this video awakening, the awakened and enlightened empath, and then I'm going to talk about the enlightened and awakened empath. So in my subjects, I always stick to narcissistic abuse because that is the field that I know, is the field that I've seen, is the experience that I've had. So I prefer, it's much more easier and actually better for me to talk about this because that's where I've been. But also awakening can also happen in other situations. You might have had people who have awakened after terrible accidents, like people who have had like near-death experiences. Those kind of individuals have also awakened to some degree, but that is another type of awakening. So it has got nothing to do with the narcissistic abuse. But the ones who have awakened during narcissistic relationships or narcissistic abuse, they are the ones who this subject is going to be addressed to. So basically, first of all, shouts out to Millicent. Thank you for this. Thank you for bringing up this topic, and thank you for being part of the Soul Tribe, being part of this family and the Soul Tribe. So, people, in the link below, in the description link below, I'm going to put a link. There is a time I shared my awakening journey. I think that was around June. It could have been around June or something like that. I shared my awakening journey. And I might have to put a link if you want to go back to to refer to that video to see what exactly was going on and how did I happen to get awakened from abuse. So you might want to go back to that video. I'm going to put a link in the description below. But for the ones who have not yet watched it, or for the ones who want more clarity, I want to explain to you something in particular. Now, awakening awakening and getting enlightened to some degree can happen also in a case whereby you have been dealing with the narcissist. Now, a person who has awakened, I want to explain actually the difference between awakening and getting enlightened, and also I'm going to explain getting enlightened and then awakening. So awakening, the people who have awakened, is not very many people who have awakened and gotten enlightened. So awakening, when I'm talking about awakening, I'm talking about the people who have actually been able to see the characters behind the mask. You see, when you've been learning, or when your coaches have been telling you, or when you've been reading or even seeing these videos about narcissism, you've always heard people talking about the invisible mask. The reason why they're talking about the invisible mask is simply because it is a softer way to address this issue on scientific level. Because if a person will really explain to you, like I've sometimes done in my videos, if a person really tries to explain to you the real people, the real faces behind the invisible mask, that so-called invisible mask, the real people behind those masks, the real influence behind those masks, I can assure you, if you've not seen that, you're not ready for it. If you've not awakened, if you've been in a narcissistic relationship, I don't care what science has got to say. Like I've always said, I don't care what psychology has got to say. I don't care the explanation that is out there, the books or whatever it is written about narcissism. If you have awakened from narcissists, from narcissistic abuse, you are very clear the image you've seen, you're very clear about the image you've seen, and you've known what you've seen on deep level, on spiritual level. You know the faces you've seen. And we're talking about the slipped mask, the cases whereby the mask has slipped. Now, what happens when you've seen what you have seen? That is a simple glimpse into another dimension. So it is a dimension that is not known to the naked eyes. It's another dimension altogether. It is not the physical beings you're seeing in front of you. When the mask has slipped, your spirit is awakening, because when you're able to have the chance to see the exact influences, what is hiding behind the mask, the narcissist mask, the physicality of the narcissist, the real individual, the real influence, what is actually hiding, the influence that has always hidden behind the mask with those people you have always been with for a long period of time. That is when you are going to exactly know what have you been dealing with. And when you have got the glimpse of that situation and you've seen those individuals for exactly who they are, not what they have told you they are. Yes, they have told you they're narcissists and abusive and whatever, manipulative or things like that. But when you have been able to spiritually see a slipped mask, the people who have not, and I can still relate, because I can guarantee that there's very few people who have actually seen a slipped mask when the narcissist mask has slipped. There's very few people who have seen that. And there is nothing will ever prepare you for the influence. What is exactly behind the mask? Because I can guarantee you it's not a very good sight, and it's something you don't want to see. So a person who has awakened, a person who has seen a slipped mask for exactly what is behind the influence behind the mask, that is the exact person who has awakened. Because when you're awakening, your spirit is also awakening. So when your spirit is awakening, you have got a chance to have a glimpse at the influence behind the mask. And immediately when that happens, you are going to feel it on physical level. You're going to feel it both on physical and spiritual level. So your body, English is not my first language, but normally I use the English that I know because I've grown up in English schools. It has always been my second language. So normally I try to use the English that I know, the level that I know, to address this issue, because I'm very sure that I can put out the message, at least out there, and it can be understood in some kind of way. So when the mask has slipped, your spirit has awakened, whichever way you want to call it. Your spirit has awakened. You have seen what you've seen. And when your spirit has awakened, that is the moment, the enlightenment. Now the enlightenment will come in every way. The enlightenment is going to start flowing. You're going to get all these downloads. You're going to get everything is going to start making sense. You're going to start getting clarity. You're going to get spiritual downloads, because you do not have to read anywhere. You do not have to listen to somebody. Yes, you can listen to 2 or 3 people, but it is just that sense whereby your spirit now is going to gather all the incidents, all the incidents that have been happening in your partnership, and that is when everything is going to start making sense, and you're going to add all the pieces together, because it is also going to appear to some degree that the higher realms, the God, the angels, whatever you believe in, there is a guidance. You're getting proper guidance and you're getting downloads. Everything is going to make sense clearly, and you're going to be able to address whatever your experience has been with the narcissist. You're going to be able to address it without having to read somewhere, to see somewhere, to learn something. You are going to know everything on spiritual level. Everything is going to make sense, and you'll be able to address that issue exactly according to what you have experienced. But on the other hand, when we're talking about a person who has gotten enlightened, the person who has gotten enlightened is also a person who has been, yes, you may have been in a narcissistic relationship, but as time progressed, you started looking for answers. You started asking 1 or 2 questions. You were asking yourself, you were asking your spirit, what are these people? Who exactly are these people that I'm dealing with? So you're going somewhere on the internet, you're going somewhere on the sites. Maybe there could have been some coaches who are trying to explain to you that probably you're dealing with a narcissist. Maybe you need to check this sign, you need to check that sign. So they may have told you 1 or 2 or 3 some kind of red flags, things, and then all of a sudden you're gathering all the incidents together, and then you're putting a word to it. So when you're putting a word to it now, and understanding that, okay, so whatever I've been dealing with, whichever person or individual I've been dealing with, they were a narcissist. that is when now the bulbs are going to switch on. Now, when the bulbs switch on, through some sort of enlightenment that you have got from outside sources, from sources maybe online, coaches or friends or maybe family or some kind of information you might have got outside you, that is what switches on the bulb, because now you're able to understand that you're dealing with a narcissist, and that is also what causes an awakening. But that kind of awakening is usually very spontaneous, so you will not feel it. It may not be felt on physical level. Of course, you're going to have some kind of emotions running through your mind. You're going to start a bit of resenting. I think most of the people who are online talking about or even listening about narcissistic abuse, those are the people who are usually resenting and thinking about revenge. What can I do? Should I revenge or whatever? Those are the individuals who have actually gotten enlightened. So if a person has gotten enlightened and then eventually awakened, those are the individuals that they have not actually seen what a sleep mask looks like. Because when you have seen what a sleep mask looks like, you are never going to think about resenting a narcissist. You are never going to think about revenging a narcissist. You are never going to think about hurting the narcissist. So the people who have got enlightened, whether it has been online, through coaches, through friends, through families, or whatever information they might have gotten somewhere, or maybe they've read a certain book or whatever, and everything made sense. The people who have worked in that category, they're the individuals who have actually not seen the mask, a real sleep mask. We're talking about a sleep mask on spiritual level. So you have not seen the exact influence behind the narcissist. So those people have awakened, but that awakening is usually spontaneous. And it is also enough, that kind of awakening, it can also be enough to get you out of the narcissistic relationship, because then at that moment you are able to start making the moves, because of course you've been following the coaches. The coaches have been telling you, yes, of course, we have explained to you this and this and this, the red flags, you've known all the red flags, now you can understand what you've been dealing with. So you are now taking the proper steps that you need to take to leave that partnership or whatever friendship or whatever it is you have with those individuals. Now you know that they're narcissists, and now you're preparing yourself spontaneously. This is a spontaneous situation. It's not like that kind of situation whereby it's going to you're going to feel. It's not that kind of incident whereby you are even going to feel it both on physical and spiritual level. Yes, you're going to have a bit of emotions. You're going to be a bit resentful, a bit hurtful and whatever, but eventually you're going to even have the time to pack your bags one by one, pack your shoes, put everything together, and slowly leave the narcissist, because of course the coaches, they have already told you the ways that you're supposed to leave the narcissist. A person who has awakened, first, whose spirit has awakened and eventually gotten enlightened through the higher realms, from the higher realms, you have gotten enlightened, and the enlightenment will come in. I've always talked about spiritual downloads in my videos. You've heard me talking about spiritual downloads. You will know when the downloads are coming in. You will understand exactly what message needs to be delivered, and everything will start to make sense to you on spiritual level. And believe me, if you're that kind of person who has awakened on spiritual level, it is very possible that the next day or even that same day, you've already packed your bags and you've left. Because I can guarantee you, people, if you have not awakened at that level, there is nothing has ever prepared you, and nothing will ever prepare you for what you're going to see behind the mask. It is more than what meets the eye. Whatever you're going to see behind the mask, those individuals will manifest differently. Like I've said in my videos, they will manifest differently. If a mask has slipped, you've seen all of a sudden utterances in their physical appearance, in their face. Even sometimes you've heard all those kind of weird voices and whatever, the voices they've been using, or even sometimes you've seen their face, the real face that they have. I'm talking about the face behind the mask, the face without the mask. You've seen the face. So whatever you've seen, your spirit has awakened, and your spirit is looking at that dark entity behind the mask. So for the ones who have not awakened to that degree, you're not ready for that. The real reason that I've always come out to speak about narcissism on spiritual level, because I know what I've seen. There's many people around the world. Not everybody is going to have that opportunity, because some other people, like I've said, they're going to be in the second category, whereby they're just going to get enlightened online. They're just going to get informed by people who have been there. They're just going to get informed by psychiatrists, by psychologists, by some scholars, by some therapists. So they may have gotten some kind of information that whatever you're dealing with, the individual you're dealing with at home, that person is a narcissist. So they have picked up 1 or 2 or 3 things from outside sources, and they have gathered all the sources together. And during that enlightenment, because when they are getting that enlightenment from outside sources, that enlightenment also triggers an awakening, and that is the awakening that actually drives you out of that relationship or encounter or even friendship that you've been dealing, the people you've been dealing with. So it can drive you out as well. That is also an awakening. But like I'm saying, that awakening is a very spontaneous awakening. It is not that awakening that will shock you to the marrow. The first category of awakening I'm talking about is the category of awakening whereby you are going to be shocked to the marrow. If you go back to my videos, and you can also speak with the people who have seen the influence behind the masks, they are going to explain to you what was the experience, because I can guarantee you that people in my videos have always heard me talking about the narcissist wants you for the dead. They are setting you up for the dead. They are setting you up. They are setting up to destroy you. And the end result, if you're not careful, the people who have not been careful, the people who don't want to listen, who have failed to listen or even to follow their intuition, they have always ended up in very difficult circumstances, because usually God will speak to you in so many ways. They will show you, he will show you the signs. People will come to you, people will talk to you, coaches will talk to you, therapists will talk to you, psychologists will talk to you, people will talk to you, but when you fail to follow your gut and listen to your intuition, normally the people who have been there, they have ended up in very difficult circumstances. Actually, a narcissist is capable even of destroying you. Even sometimes the narcissist is capable of killing you. A narcissist is capable of taking your life. Their disorder doesn't know the limits of the pain they can put people through. So when they're putting you through the pain, they do not have limits, because they do not have empathy. They're capable of taking you all the way along the roller coaster. Even they can even send you on your deathbed. A narcissist, most of the individuals who have been in a narcissistic relationship, you can talk to them if you know them. If they have really seen the mask sleep, they will explain to you exactly what they have seen. And most of those individuals, most likely, they have almost gotten as far as their deathbed. They may even have seen or even experienced death to some degree, because when a narcissist is emotionally strangling you, when a narcissist is emotionally destroying you, they are killing your spirit. They are destroying your spirit. They want to put you to death. They want to kill you. And usually, in that incident, the first category, the first degree that I've mentioned, the awakened and enlightened, if that has happened to you, God will awaken your spirit, because it's like God will never accept a narcissist to put you to sleep. Yes, they'll put you to sleep, but he will never accept the narcissist to take your life. So when it comes to that extent whereby you almost feel like you're losing your life, you're going to die, it's like you've reached that extent whereby you feel that that person you're dealing with is going to take your life. That is the moment your spirit awakens. And the spirit doesn't awaken spontaneously, like I've said. The spirit will never awaken spontaneously. In the first category that I'm talking about, when the spirit awakens, you're going to have a glimpse behind the mask. You are going to have a glimpse behind the mask. You are going to see what are the exact faces hiding behind the mask. The mask that the physical body or the physical eye or the physical consciousness cannot see. And that is what actually triggers that brutal awakening I've always been talking about. The brutal awakening is different, because when you're awakening, when your spirit is awakening, in the first category that I'm talking about, you are going to see what is exactly behind the mask. And when that mask sleeps and you've seen that, that is now when you're going to get enlightened. You're going to be overwhelmed by the downloads. The downloads will come in and you're going to be overwhelmed, because everything everything narcissist has ever hidden from you, it is going to come to you naturally. You do not specifically have to listen to somebody. Yes, you might have had a few coaches here talking here and there, people listening to a few programs on TV, maybe your doctors, maybe your nurses have been telling you something. But I can guarantee you that when your spirit has awakened, in the first category that I'm talking about, the downloads will come in naturally. The information will come in naturally. And even if you decide to share, whether you're going to write a book, whether you're going to read a story, whether you're going to write a song, whether you're going to share on your own platform, the information is going to flow to you naturally. But an enlightened empath, the enlightened empath who has awakened after getting some sort of enlightenment, it is spontaneous. So when they awaken, of course, they will keep on doing the research, reading the books, doing that and whatever. So it is another type of awakening that is happening within the soul. Your soul and the spirit is awakening spontaneously. And the feeling is not going to be the same. But like I've said, awakening is not only in narcissistic abuse. It is not only in the cases of narcissistic abuse. There is people who have awakened after getting terrible accidents. There's people who have awakened after getting terrible, very, very, very severe illnesses that actually could have even tried to take their own life, to cost them their life. Illnesses or sicknesses or disease or whatever. So awakening can happen in many cases. There's also awakening that has happened just in someone's job place. They have been abused. Maybe they may have been dealing with a narc somehow, or nurses in their job place. And to some degree they have awakened and eventually packed their bags and left their work. So awakening happens in many cases, but the actual awakening, the actual spiritual awakening, is the awakening of the spirit. Your awakening of the spirit will actually give you a glimpse of the actual influences hiding behind the narcissist's mask. And when you see that, I can guarantee you, you're ready to pick your shoes on that same day if you can. It does not matter if it's the middle of the night. It does not matter whatever time of the day it is. It does not matter whether you have the finances necessary. You're ready to pick up your shoes, get in your car and drive away and never looking back for whichever reason. The ones who have awakened, eventually after getting enlightened, they may have awakened spontaneously. So because they have not had that shock of the actual spiritual awakening, they have not had the real shock, they have got some kind of spontaneous awakening at the after getting exposed to all this kind of abuse and whatever. So they have got some kind of they have got another type of awakening, but they are also those kind of people who have awakened to that degree. They may have taken their time to live. They may have taken a couple of days. They may have set up some whatever, because of course the coaches are telling you, okay, so this is what you're dealing with, but if you want to get out, so this is how you need to prepare yourself. You need to do this. You need to do so. They are taking the proper steps actually to leave the narcissistic relationship, unlike the ones who have awakened and looked at the influences behind the mask. So Millicent, thank you very much for inspiring this topic today. I just wanted to give more clarity about the actual awakening. I'm going to put a link in the description below about my own journey during the spiritual awakening, what exactly happened during my awakening. And eventually, people, let me know in the comments below what you think about this. Let me know what has been your awakening. Were you the person who has awakened and the mask has slipped and you've seen the influence behind the mask? Or were you the person that has actually initially gotten some enlightenment for some period of time and then eventually awakened to abuse and actually left them? I want to know what has been your experience in the comments below. People, I love you all, and I hope to get back to you in my next video. Much love and blessings. There's more signing out.